Well, hello and welcome everyone to a new episode of Tawhid Spiritual Unity of the Three Principles. And today's topic is the future of nursing globally. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because this is actually, I think, it's the first time that we bring this topic to Tawhid, and we have an amazing guest with us who could share their experiences with us and the future of nursing globally. So our first guest is Lyn McCright, and our second guest is Teresa Walding. And for those of you who doesn't know about Teresa and Lyn, I'll give you a brief bio of Teresa Walding. Teresa Walding earned her Bachelor of Science in Nursing from Boise State University in 1993. She has worked in a variety of clinical areas, including ICU, rehabilitation, psychiatric, pediatrics, and currently post-anesthesia recovery. She is the co-leader of the Austin area chapter of the American Holistic Nursing Association. As a speaker and teacher, she has shared the three principles as national conferences, meetings, webinars, and retreats. Teresa is a board-certified nurse coach, content creator, and faculty member of the Advancing Nurse Coaching Program, which focuses on bringing the three principles of resilience to nurses and healthcare professionals through their 80-hour virtual self-paced course. She is a contributor to the Beginnings magazine of the AHNA. I don't know what, this one didn't want to go out, and has been republished in the Texas Organization of Nurse Executives in Use. She has appeared on podcasts, radio shows, webinars, sharing the three principles with the nursing community. She has recently established Teresa Walding Consulting PLLC. And for those who doesn't know Lyn McCright, Lyn met Sydney Banks in 1980, and she began coaching 34 years ago, teaching the three principles in her private practice of nursing in California. Lyn is the health and wellness nurse coach with an MPH in nursing from the University of Minnesota. She is a nurse practitioner, a specialist in community health, and she volunteers as the leader of the 3PGC nursing and health professions community of interest, now in its 6th year. So good to have you with us today, Lyn and Teresa. I'm really excited and looking forward to this conversation, especially because I had, well, I've just been interested in looking at this direction with Maya, who's with us on a call today, and I really didn't see that nurses are suffering as well, in their workplace with patients and taking that stress to their houses, with their husbands and wives and kids. And it's really amazing to see that you guys are focusing on this area, because when I start looking at, at this area, I found out that there are lots of people suffering, nurses suffering. And myself and Maya recently did, as most of you know, Nursing from the Inside Out course with the amazing bunch of nurses, and Jim was there. He actually shared the Dreamers tape with us, and his wisdom as always. And it was so good to to have this experience with these beautiful people, and to see them really waking up to something amazing up inside of them, and seeing it that it's inside of their patients as well, and they could help them see that. And so now I'll just be quiet because I've been screaming. My team just won against Canada. Sorry about this, Harry, but this is being recorded on YouTube. I want to keep it as a memory.
Bummer,
So, yes.
bummer.
Now your turn, Harry. Go on, and then pass it to Lyn and Teresa.
Yeah. Just the last show we did, we used an image that the addiction mentors in the Muslim community that I work with are really nurses, because it's where they work right at the ground level. the doctors get all the credit and everything, but it's actually the nurses who do all the work. And within that image, when some of them started to read Dreama's book on nursing, I'll just give a little plug to it that Jim has published out there. It brought to their minds of what they do. Like, it's real what Omar is talking about. The struggles and the human interaction is really at the base root where the sort of the rubber meets the road. And I never quite realized that until I sort of looked at it as from a nursing perspective. And so I take my hat off to you guys. I mean, it's really, as Omar says, it's maybe the toughest job in the world, and yet the most rewarding job in the world, because you're helping people who are suffering. And just as a side note, I just want to mention, last show we had roughly, we have the people here, but when it goes live, there'll be about 300 people or so who will view this, and then we'll make it into a podcast as well. And I'll send that out to you guys. But go ahead.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Well, I am just remembering when I met Sid for the first time, 1980. I was in a very large auditorium. It was a group of healthcare providers at the VA hospital in Miami, Florida, 400 people to be exact. And I heard what Sid was saying. Every word rang true. And there was no question, there was no yeah, but, there was no thought. I actually recall that when I came back a year later, we were holding what was then considered the first annual conference of the principles of mind. And there were only 12 people in the room. There were chairs for 20. And I thought, out of all of those 400 people in that room with us that day, how could they not have heard what I heard? And yet here we were, just a dozen of us. And I have been, reflecting on that. And of course, as our work has proceeded, I think, I don't know that our percentages have improved any, but it's been such a joy to be here. And recently we did a podcast, and I was requested to write something about our bios for that podcast. And what came was astonishing to me. It said that we are internationally known thought leaders in the future of nursing globally. Wow. Surprised and delighted. But what a task. Nursing is the world's largest profession. 14 million world. 14 million. And it is, as you said, we're unseen. During the last 2 years, we're told that 1 out of 5 healthcare workers have left their occupations. But in the profession of nursing, it has been 1 out of 3. So what we're left with now is very much considered to be a shortage of nurses. In this country, 3.8 million, and worldwide, as I said, 14 million. The joys of nursing can't be underestimated. They're absolutely huge. And yet, in the recent past in the United States, and I hope not worldwide, nurses have been found to lose their lives in their line of duty. at work. And that is just, almost inconceivable, considering the quality of life that we also hope for our clients. I think that I really want to turn it over to Teresa at this point. She's been just such a guiding light in everything that we share. And as you know, we've shared globally, nationwide, and locally, and continue to do our sharing at all of those levels. We just love the fact that we're here now and are forever grateful to Sydney Banks for bringing what can be described as the truth to our work. Teresa?
Thanks, Lyn. I feel such a peace in this space right now. It's really incredible to be here where we have a common conversation about 3 principles that guide our experience of life. And I didn't know anything about this till 2015, and when I went to the conference that Dr. Blevins presented at, I had 0 expectations. I was just doing my duty. I needed to show up because we're the co-leaders of the Austin area chapter of holistic nursing. And I was like, I just need some loving care, some tenderness, something to alleviate the chronic pain I'd been having. It was everything I could do to get to the conference. And Dr. Blevins is such an amazing teacher. He comes in and I'm like, man, he's really tall, and the kindness that comes off of him in his presence is really that loving tenderness that I was desiring. And he wanted us to just come and listen on the Friday night for a couple of hours as he sort of prepared us for the next day, which was 7 hours of conference. And so he talked about separate realities a little bit, and he talked about why principles matter. And I went to bed thinking something different is happening here. And I really honestly couldn't wait to get to the conference the next morning. And, we finally all sat down and he just started talking about how things really work and then how people think things work. And I thought, his flat earth thinking. And that rung true to me as I began to, I think, listen at a more deep level than I was used to. And then he got to the part about separate realities, and I had huge insights and realizations of like what I had been doing with my personal thinking and how it was manifesting in my body and literally devastating my health. I had been going to endocrinologist, rheumatologist, any care practitioner that would see me. And they were all like, yeah, we can't find anything wrong with you. And I was like, well, why do I hurt so bad? Everything hurt. And I felt that was affecting, that my physical pain was affecting my work. And I didn't want to go to work anymore. I was tired. I wanted a break from that. And when the pain dissolved in the middle of the conference, I thought, what is happening here? And then I know I listened to the rest of the conference, but I feel like it came into my soul. Like I felt like it was a whole package. And I knew without a doubt that I wanted to share this with the rest of nursing, because I knew all of my colleagues were suffering in one way or another, just like me. There was a lot of discontent, a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. And I slept like a baby the rest of the weekend. I think I slept all day Sunday. And Monday morning, I had a new job. I walked in and I was like, the spark was back. The light, my desire to nurse was back. And I thought, this is really something. And as fast as we could, Lyn and I both signed up for nurse coaching programs, because you have to have the continuing education to get the board certification. And before that was over, we started recording videos for our own coaching school because we wanted to bring principles to nursing. And coaching is the perfect vehicle. And that's what we've been doing for the last 6 years. And it hasn't been easy, but it has been incredibly enjoyable. And I think the things that we have been learning, especially of late, is the power of coaching as the container that helps us to connect with people. You know, when you come to a coaching conversation, it's an intentional conversation. They're there because they either want to solve a problem, get clarity, feel better. Any amount or any number of ways that someone can ask for help, coaching conversations help. And in my view, the 3 principles coaching conversation is the only one out there because it affects every single aspect of a human being. It's not separate from us. And I've taken the knowledge, the intellectual knowledge, which when I was trying to figure it out wasn't very helpful. And it caused me like, what am I doing wrong? Only to realize my first insight was actually what I was still looking for. And I always come back to that, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. I stop judging it. I just live. But when I get to share with my colleagues, especially in our school and with my private clients, magic happens. It's incredible. And so that's why I'm here. I continue to learn from every single person I talk to. And thank you for having me here.
You know, I think that we're learning so much from our students. That's just such a beautiful thing about coaching. When we coach or when we coach our students, it's always a double blessing. The person that we're working with and ourselves always learn something, always grow. We have an unlimited capacity, of course, to learn and grow. And it's just so freeing to know that in our case, nurses are so much more than the duties, the tasks, the assignments that we're given, even though our training is all currently focused on that. When nursing began with Florence Nightingale 152 years ago, she told us that the knowledge of nursing is knowledge that everyone ought to have of how to put a body into a state of health. Well, that's where we are now. We're at that point of being able to point people to their own health. And she said 150 years ago that it would be 150 years before people would see the kind of nursing that she envisioned. So when we were at the conference, which Teresa was describing, I was standing at the podium looking out at the conference attendees. And what I realized was that I was standing on the same cliff where Florence Nightingale had stood. But instead of the dying soldiers and horses that she saw, I was seeing our dying healthcare system. And I knew in that moment that nurse coaching, in our case, and the principles would bring the transformation that is so needed in healthcare today. People are not feeling the rewards that they came into the profession for. And we're changing now to make that possible again. People are finding themselves, their true selves, their authentic selves at work. And it's a joy for them to share themselves and the principals with others. We've had so many people worldwide that have come to our coursework and have benefited so much. At one point at a recent conference, George Pansky was asking me, well, what's so special about nursing, Lyn? And I said, well, we're going to be able to bill Medicare. And he said, oh, I see. So that actually began the 1st of July this year. And currently it's a 3-year experimental project. We are using 3 codes for reimbursement. And at the end of those 3 years, we fully expect to be able to bill and be reimbursed through our healthcare system. So that's one of the things that's different about nursing. But of course, as nurses, we step forward when people are in trouble. When everybody else steps back, we step forward. And that's really what sets us apart. We have the opportunity to touch more people's lives than any other profession. As much as anything, it's simply because of our numbers, 14 million. But we have a way of being there at the most critical times in people's lives. The birth of a baby, when someone is dying, when somebody is in the emergency room, those critical points where their vulnerability is completely exposed. We are there for them. And grateful, ever, ever grateful to be that. Teresa?
It reminds me of the goal I wrote 20 plus years ago when I realized that so many people were so afraid and suffering and hurting and didn't know what to do. And the time for people to come to the ER is like 3 o'clock in the morning. They've tried everything they know to allay their fear, to feel better, to try their own treatments, whatever those are. And when they finally give up, they just come to the ER because they don't know what else to do. And I wanted to find something that would help people, even in the middle of the night when no one was around. And I thought it looked like a practice or a modality or something to calm people down so they could think clearly. I didn't know it was the principles, but the day that I found it, I knew I found the answer to that goal. And it has proven true. Any number of people that have called me, nurses get a lot of phone calls. Well, you're a nurse, what do you think? And so, friends of friends and family and people call. And I always tell them, I'm not a doctor. I cannot give you advice, but I can talk with you. I can listen and we can, help you decide what you need to do. And the principles help people navigate that. And we don't have to talk about it as the principles. It's not like teaching them about it. It's holding that space for people and pointing them in the direction of their own health and allaying some of the fear. It's the stress and anxiety that degrade people's health. When I can't tell you how many doctors I've talked to who are like, I got to figure out a way to get their stress level down or they're going to die. The principles do that. Not from something that we do, but something that we point them to that's within them already. And I think it's the beauty of being a nurse, of knowing we have a lot of intuitive knowledge, like, how do I know to go down to the end of the hall? Something just tells me to go there. And it's exactly what needs to happen. Someone's in a precarious position or has a question or any number of things that nurses have little ideas pop into their head of what they need to do. But beyond that, we have like empathy and this internal knowing of like empowering patients to do the things they need to do for their health. And the principals make that so much easier, because what I see happening is there's a lot of nurses who are like, I have to make sure this person knows this so they, don't come back to the hospital, or they, have everything they need to take care of themselves. And they take it on personally instead of giving that power to the other person. When you empower a patient to take care of themselves, mind, body, and spirit, you've done something for them that they will remember for the rest of their life. Because when you allow them to have that experience of knowing how this got here, or what they can do to alleviate some of the mental stress that goes with being sick a lot. Especially people who have a lot of severe, like cancer, someone who's struggling with cancer. If you talk to them, there's a lot of them who have already understand that it's not the cancer causing the distress or the dis-ease. It's their thoughts about it. And they choose life. They choose to live without limitations. My dad did the same thing. He had lung cancer when he was 49 years old. And the last year of his life, he lived his life with no limits. And that was something I didn't realize until probably 20 years later, of how much he actually lived in his last year of life more than he ever had before. And I feel like the principals do that for us without having to have a major experience like that. And I don't know, it's this incredible place to be able to watch people unfold and to learn and to desire to see something new. They know it's there, they know something is here, and they're all ears. And I'm grateful to be in that conversation.
So what are we about really? As we reflect on that, the changes that the last couple of years have brought have been really, really focused on our profession. We've been right at the heart of it. And what we're seeing now is what we are about, not just Teresa and myself, but many other people as well. But we are redefining nursing, the profession. We are redefining the work that nurses do, much more closely aligned with how Florence Nightingale saw it originally. And we've thought in our schooling that we were here to fix people's problems, to take care of them. We're very good at being very busy about taking care of things. But now it's time to open like a rose and blossom. Now it's time for us, through coaching, to help people find their own answers. When we were standing over them, shaking our fingers, saying, "You've got to do this," they couldn't hear us. But now that we know, we're walking beside them as part of their team. They're a little bit ahead of us because it's their goals that they're working on. We can see that the rewards of helping them find their own answers are much greater than we ever could have imagined. And we don't know what they will be. Those answers won't be something that came out of the nursing book that we read. It'll be something that's unique to them. And even though we may be shaking our heads thinking, I don't see how that's going to work, it does, because that answer was one-on-one. It came through them as their answer. And they know exactly what step to take on the next step forward. Teresa?
It reminds me of one of my patients who, when I was working in the recovery room, and very stoic, very pleasant, really nice to talk to. And he had a total knee replacement and had to keep him in the recovery room for a couple of hours waiting for a room. And so I allowed his wife to come in because we were just going to set up camp and wait. And his wife came in the room and the whole mood in the room changed. And he got like really, really quiet, where he'd been kind of boisterous. And he got really reflective, and then he started to cry. And I was like, what's going on? Are you hurting? What's happening? And he said, I've been waiting for a year to get this total knee replacement. And now it's done. I put all the energy, all the appointments, which it's a really big deal to get all that done. And he goes, I'm afraid to walk on it. He's like, what's going to happen when I stand up for the first time? And they were both crying. And I thought, what can I do? What can I do? And I just listened. And I got to talk to them for 2 hours about, the things that we're afraid of, and how the fear that, yes, it feels real, but we didn't really know what the future held. And he did know what to do. And he had the classes to know what he could and couldn't do, and that he wouldn't be alone on the journey. And as we talked, I could feel his tension come down, and he became his boisterous self again. And we got to the room, and his wife turned around and she just started hugging me. She said, you will never know how much that helped him. She said, it's been the elephant in our room for a long time because we put so much effort into getting the knee done. They didn't know what life looked like afterwards. And I think that's a really common fear. There's things that will help us, especially if you've had that kind of pain for a long time, and to get all the way to having it done. And then suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, now what? I didn't plan for that part. And to be able to hold that space and know that they were going to be okay, and show them through conversation that that's just thinking, that it hasn't happened. And I like to think that he just woke up the next day and did all the physical therapy he needed to do, and he's out playing golf somewhere. But it was really incredible to have that time again with a patient one-on-one, where I know that conversation made a difference. And that's just one of hundreds that happen when you know about principles. I think in the past, I might have commiserated a little bit or tried to talk him out of his feelings. I didn't have to do any of that. Just be there with him and process those feelings and let them fall away on their own. And it's really a beautiful relationship that we get to be in that sense.
I had written an article back in 2017. I'm realizing that was 5 years ago now. And the title of which was The Revolution in Nursing Begins. And it was about exactly this. It was about where we see the power of thought in creating our experience. And of course, people appreciated the article and were glad to read it and so forth. But it just keeps coming up, that topic, the revolution in nursing begins. Of course, as we know, the revolution has already begun. It's in at least 63 countries now. But it's also begun for us as a profession worldwide. And that is where we find ourselves. And once again, just incredibly, incredibly grateful to be here. When Teresa and I undertook an adventure last spring, we had an opportunity to speak to one of the highest level conferences being held in our profession. And we had people globally that attended. It was a virtual conference. It happens to be a theory conference, which is called Nurseology. Some of our colleagues are thinking that we need to change our name from nursing to Nurseology to match psychology and some of the other sciences. But at any rate, I want to say that in spite of the fact that we are relatively under-credentialed and not as experienced as most of the people that were presenters there, nevertheless, we went, we presented, we were heard, and we're going back again this year. We'll be submitting an abstract this month, in fact. We had the opportunity to hear some of the greatest minds in our profession worldwide speaking, or just as participants in the conference. People, nursing is a really blessed profession in that we have theories of nursing, just as in psychology, they have theories of psychology. Just for an example, medicine has no theories, it's all hands-on. But what Dr. Blevins is bringing to us now, and he says that, well, you can tell about William James, Teresa, but we are bringing the science to our field.
Yeah, we've been mentoring with Dr. Blevins for quite a long time. And it really struck me that when, I don't know about you guys, but do the principles like change the way you look at things, like the things you read and the things you see when you look out into the world, like even songs that you hear, there's all of that, like your filter changes. And that filter applied to these nursing theories that I was reading. And I thought, that doesn't read the same as it used to. I used to look at the theories and read through them and pick out the parts that I liked. And all of a sudden I could pick out the parts that were true, like
Right.
paradigmatically true. And it dawned on me, like, the principles encompass all of that. So when I wrote the proposal for the Nurseology conference, Lyn and I were talking about it, and she was like, I think we need to call it pan-theoretical. It encompasses and includes all theories. But it felt like it was even more than that. It's the only theory. And it's not a theory. They're principles. And so my mind just kept thinking about it and thinking about it. And it still is refining, because I can't really understand. I remember, don't stop trying to figure it out. It just is. And I could see how the principles could really, truly be the foundation of nursing. And then Dr. Blevins started talking about the last book that Sid is writing. And he started talking about unitary science. That was one of the words that I used when I was writing the proposal for the Nurseology conference. And I was like, it's like everywhere I look, when truth is heard, it comes out the same. I feel it's very strange that we start using the same words. Like, there's only certain words in our vocabulary that mean that. And we seem to all be finding those words. And we know it's not in the words, but that's what we have to communicate in this reality. And I saw that as we progress, as we get better at expressing what these principles mean to a profession, in this case nursing, we will be able to shift into what is in those theories, but in a much simpler way and in a foundation that doesn't shift and change. And the language will become a more common language. And I just see that as a unifying force to help move nursing forward. I don't know how that's going to look. That was the best I could think about it in the way that I can think about it now. It's growing and changing, and one day I might say something that I believe in one day, and I'm like, oh, you have an insight about that, and it changes again. So I'm open to that as well, just in the ability to share this knowledge with my profession and with anyone else who wants to know, because doesn't belong to me. It belongs to everyone equally.
When Dr. William James, the father of American psychology, wrote his first book, 1890, I believe, he entitled it The Principles of Psychology. And his colleagues read the book and they said, well, this is a wonderful book, quite extensive. Where are the principles? And he says, oh, they have not been revealed yet. And then our favorite nurse theorist, Helen Erickson, wrote in 1982, years different, 130 years difference, that the principles of nursing were as yet uncovered. So here we have this span of time, 130 years. He said principles of psychology had not been revealed. She said principles of nursing have not been revealed. Well, that all changed in 1973. And, to the best of our abilities worldwide, we are in the process now of allowing our public, whomever that might be, to know the principles. And it's something that is so close to the fabric of what nursing is created from and is and always has been. But it hasn't been seen as a science. And that is what is being brought forth now. The science of the knowledge of nursing. We can actually have principles to base our practice on, which will go far beyond our profession, of course. But since we are the largest profession, it's a wonderful place for us to begin.
I'm just reminded, and now I've listened to so many teachers and heard things so many times, but there's that 50-year cycle. Like when new knowledge gets here, it's like a 50-year cycle before people actually will accept that knowledge. That happened with germ theory, happened with any number of other new things that came into the world. We're at the 50 years. This is 50 years since Sid had his experience. And in the last 6 years that I've been involved in these principles, I have watched it grow exponentially. And in nursing in particular, there's something called a tipping point. So there's 14 million nurses worldwide. You have to have 0.001% to hit the tipping point of anything that's new coming into the profession or into anything. And in nurse coaching, we are there. There are over 3,000 board certified nurse coaches now. We only needed 1,400. So since we're at that point, it's the exact right time for the principles to begin to go out into the nurse coaching realm to affect change. And I hope and pray that anyone who is a nurse coach would want to come and learn about principles, because no matter what kind of coaching you're doing, it will help you. It will help you to be more effective in your coaching. It will get results for your clients, but most importantly, it will transform yourself. And in the end, that's the most important one. If you have that knowledge for yourself, you automatically share it with others, no matter who they are.
Mm. I just want to give a quick example about coaching. We had a student who was working in the emergency department one evening, and they wheeled in a young man, just 25 years old, too morbidly obese to walk independently. And he said, well, I want to make some changes, but I want to talk to the doctor and find out what's possible. And the student nurse said, well, he's over there and can't come right now, but let's have a conversation. And as they spoke, what rolled around as an insight to her was to say, you know, calories are energy, and you have everything you need to do anything you want. And he heard that so deeply. We'll never know. It was just a chance encounter in the emergency department, but potentially a life-changing encounter. So healing. And we are a part of that. And the nurses that have studied with us have expressed so much gratitude. Many of whom have come to us saying, I'm about to leave nursing altogether, and I'll just give it one more chance. And they've seen their professions, their occupation turn around completely.
Yeah, one of our students just let us know. She said if it wasn't for the principals, she wouldn't be a nurse right now. She was on her way out when she came to the program. She was looking for a way to get out of nursing. So people, when they're finding the principals, are actually staying in their jobs, which, if you know what's happening in healthcare right now, we need nurses to stay at the bedside if that's where they want to be. And the principals allow their own thinking to settle down so that they can become present to their work. Just like the feeling that I had a brand new job on Monday morning, that doesn't happen to me. You know, I had been looking for 5 years already. And so when it happens like that, you want to help people. And I noticed the people that we're talking to now, when they hear what we're talking about and what we're about, they're like, yes, that's what I've been looking for. In fact, I just spoke to someone this morning. She was like, I don't know how I found you, but this is what I want. And she's in Finland. I was like, wow, that's interesting. So she's like, this aligns with the kind of nursing that I want to do. I want to empower people. I want to help people find their own health and what they need to do and witness that transformation within them. And it's the most fun I've ever had in my life to help people see that. And yeah.
So our nurses and our other healthcare providers, we're open to all licensed health professionals, tell us that they're guided to our coursework. And we have no idea. We can't track that. We can't connect the dots, but they almost invariably tell us that they're guided. And well, once again, we're just so grateful to be here now.
Well, that's been beautiful. Thank you, Lyn and Teresa. Oh, you brought such you came with your light to this show. You brought a new spark to our show. I'm really grateful that you actually joined us today and accepted my invitation. Something that you said about unifying things. The word Tawheed for this a webinar series is actually an Arabic word for oneness and unity. And this is what we're doing, myself and Harry, to bring out or share about the oneness of life and everything. And I'm glad to actually be working with Keith for the scientific psychology of the future, sharing about the scientificity and the specificity of this understanding. I think that it should be brought to light to many people in the community, in the 3P community and outside the 3P community, but it's something big, and I'm really excited to be part of it. And yeah, I would love actually to open it for questions or sharings. Anyone who want to share something, just raise your digital hand, or yeah, go ahead, Jim. Let me unmute you.
I'm blown away by you two. This is one of the highest, most beautiful sharings that I've been privileged to witness. Thank you so much.
Wow.
We can't help it, Jim. There's nothing else that we can do.
I understand. I understand. But I just really feel lucky to have met you two in this way. And you have just presented incredibly well, deep from the heart. Thank you so much for everything you've done and everything that you will continue to do. If we, if the world can accept more and more of you folks, the blessing is growing. I'm very humbled to be here.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. I did want to say that 60% of nurses are in hospitals. And of course, that's true worldwide. We're there 365 days, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. But the other 40% are out in the community. And because the numbers are so small in all of the different locations, we're practically invisible. We have people in public health, people in the doctor's office, people in school nursing, people in hospice and end of life. But the numbers are so small. But when you look, you'll find that a nurse is there.
A caring nurse is there. What struck me, what came to me was a nurse fills a void like a psychologist fills a void. The two things I know in the hospital is this: you're suffering and worried, and you have a lot of idle time. And with idle time,
yeah,
people worry or they get involved, and they're looking for something of a bright light because they're in with a lot of people who are sort of depressed or upset or worried and so on. And the three principles handle the human condition so well. And the only people that can help me when I'm in the hospital is the nurse. The doctor just comes and does his quick rounds and says a few things technically what's wrong or what so on. But it's the nurse who's there to provide the support and sustenance, spiritual sustenance that I need to feel good about this experience. And it's very common for men to fall in love with their nurses because of this caregiving approach. In a way, we need that love and caring and nurturing, and in your case, wisdom to help people get into a beautiful thing. And when we find a nurse like that, it's like the highlight of our day, because our day is quiet. There's a lot of, you're trying to fill it up with something, and you have this bright light that shows up. And that, as much as anything, when you walk out of the hospital, there are two things you remember. A, I'm glad to be out of here, which obviously is true. And B, that nurse touched me, made a difference in my life. And so I think we all share this thankfulness to the nurses and what you're sharing. And as the largest profession, sharing at the ground level, at the level where people are at, not this side. It's true, it's scientific and it's philosophical and it's big picture oriented, absolutely. But the truth is, you're helping individuals right at the core of what they want, and you're filling them up, in your case, with love.
Yeah.
It's not really advertised this way, but the only reason people go to the hospital is for nursing care.
That's actually true. I never thought of it, but that's true.
So I wrote a little poem one time, 17 syllables, Japanese verse, haiku. Carry it in with the bedpan, the heart and mind of the nurse, wisdom.
Let's say it again. I missed it. Say it.
Carry it in with the bedpan, the heart and the mind of the nurse, wisdom. It's so ordinary. We have that to share.
When you were talking, it was reminding me of what we often call the soft skills of nursing. It's the skill that we have to connect with people, of being intuitively in tune with a person's health condition, being able to walk in the room, smell a smell, feel a feeling, and know what you need to do. That I feel like what you described was really, really spot on for what nursing really does. It puts a body into that state of health. And it's not the words, it's in the feeling. And it's in the mind of the person experiencing that feeling. I wish I could package that. I would be rich. But thank you for that description, because that really touched me to hear the perspective of someone who's been on that other side, because people don't often tell us that. And so I think that was an important thing to say here. Thank you.
Yeah. It's the truth is we're all ordinary human beings, and human contact in a wise and ordinary way touches every human being.
Right. I agree.
You know,
Yeah, the psychologists thought that they could figure out what made people tick. And when they realized they couldn't, they passed it off to the clergy. And that's when we got the split between the physical and the spiritual. And, you know, now it's coming back together. Now we have the opportunity to see both at the same time, because the manifested and the unmanifested are the same. They are just two sides of the same coin.
that's beautiful what you just said. That's really simple power. Yeah, beautiful.
Well, Omar, I know you've been up celebrating all night. Is there anything else that you'd like us to bring?
Well, I'm full of that aloha feeling. I'm just basking in that. So yeah, thank you both. And I don't know, like if anyone wants to ask a question or something to share with us, please raise your digital hands or just unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi, Maya.
Hi. I would just like to share that I am one of those, what did you say, 3,000 nurses on your program. And I just appreciate it so much, and especially being connected to that great movement of nurses healing the world.
Yes.
That is feeling so great. And we're taking it to the next level.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's so beautiful.
You know, and we can't see that next level yet, but we know we're creating it. And each of us is bringing our own piece of the tapestry, our own thread. It might be a thick thread, a thin thread, a gold thread, a green thread. And when you look at the back, it's just a bunch of strings hanging down. But when you turn it over, it's a beautiful tapestry that we're all creating together.
That's beautifully said. There is I really like those artistic metaphors.
Well, I know you do. I'm one of the few who received a beautiful painting from Maya, all the way from Denmark to Morocco. Such a beautiful painting. I called it the Infinite Spiral of Love. And
That's a great title.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely stunning. I'll be sharing the picture on Facebook when I
Oh, great. I was about to say, when do we
When
get
I'm-
to see that?
really soon.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, Maya has sent me a artistic creation as well
Well, of the
Yeah.
principle.
of the principles. Yeah,
Yeah, she's good.
she is.
She's good.
So I think, Omar, we should say thank you. And before you go, Omar, can you show me how to make the Facebook Live
Oh
public?
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
tried, but I couldn't figure it out. Okay. Sorry, a technical glitch. Yeah. But maybe I'll say something. Thank you, ladies. Just what Jim said, I ditto as well. It brought to light what a big movement looks like and how it's gone from stage 1 to stage 50, and there's still more to go, but you've accomplished so much already. And it's inspiring for me because I'm also on a different network of what I'm trying to create change. And it shows me the cleaner you are in your understanding, and we can testify that it's very clean, the purer it goes out. And this is very pure, what you're sharing with the world.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's a joy.
Yeah.
It is, of course. What else is it? It's the greatest fun in the world.
Yeah. Never better.
Never better. 100% agree.
Yeah. Sid's first wife, Barb, was a nurse, and he actually did an audio tape on Sid Banks on nursing.
Mhm.
So he's been with us all along.
You know, that was his greatest longing, really, after his experience, was to alleviate the needless suffering.
Yes.
This is really addressing that. Then yes.
Actually, I don't know if you know the title of the book that Keith is going to publish, that Sydney Banks handed him before he passed away. It's called Suffering Needlessly, the Principles of Psychology Revealed.
Beautiful.
I can hardly wait. We've been waiting for years.
Oh yeah, like I had the conversation with Keith, and I told him, well, like, what do you think about the principles of psychology revealed? Because, like, actually, you know, it's Sydney Banks in covering principles of psychology, something that the world has been waiting for since the beginning of, you know, like, psychology. And, you know, William James has written a book, as Lyn mentioned, called The Three Principles of Psychology. And then he went on saying that there are no principles of psychology. And so, yeah, these are principles of psychology. So, and then he was like, okay, let me ask about that. And then, well, I'm glad that he, you know, he took it into consideration. And now it's the subtitle of the book. So I'm really looking forward to have my own copy.
Yeah.
Can't wait to read it. Okay, I think it's the right time to end this beautiful conversation. I would love to thank our beautiful guest speakers today, Lyn and Teresa. You've been such a you know, you brought so much light, as I said, and I really can't get enough of you sharing about this and your wisdom. And I love what you're up to, and I love what you've been doing and what you're doing at the moment. And I can't wait to hear more about what you are up to. And I'll see you very soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having us. And thank you everyone for being here.
Bye
It's
for
been a
now.
pleasure.
Take care.
Should I stop the live stream or do you want